Hello? I see 6 viewers online. Are you able to see my camera? We will wait for a couple of minutes till other people join. Messages on the group chat. See my face. Hello, can you please turn your speakers on so that you can talk to me? Okay, I believe we can start now. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. We will start now. So let me introduce myself. I am Pinakin Chauban. I run the Automation Geek channel and you might be seeing my updates. The people who have subscribed to me might be seeing my updates as and when I post some videos. So uh, today we are going to see what JMeter is. I am going to show you the basics of JMeter. The advanced courses will come later. This is just an introduction to JMeter. I will let you know what JMeter is, why it is used, and in the middle, if you have any questions, you can just send me a question on the chat window. So just can you please send me a sample chat so that I can know whether you are able to hear me, whether you are able to see my screen. Hello. Please reply if you are able to see my screen. Okay, let's start. So today we are going to look at JMeter. This is just an introduction to JMeter, and we will see the basic things that are there in JMeter. Just give me a minute. Okay, so let's begin with the basics of what performance testing is. Now, say I have a site, I have my own site, and that site I have hosted to the public, and the public are using it. But what happens when say it's a book site where you are selling books, and people are purchasing books from your site, so they place an order, they are placing an order, they are in the middle of placing an order, and they see that it's taking a lot of time for fetching the books when they do a search. So it doesn't help them. They are in a hurry, they want to purchase the book before it goes out of stock. So it this will lead the existing customers to other sites, and you will lose your customer base. So that's the reason performance testing is a very uh, important work that we need to do before launching our site to production. Now there are various kinds of performance testing. I will go through each and every kind. So just bear with me. Okay, so we have performance testing. Features are load testing is one of them. Then stress testing is one of them. Scalability testing is one of them. Volume endurance. What is load testing? Load testing is giving a specific kind of load till 1 hour to the system, and they see the system performance during this 1 hour period. Stress testing is testing when the system breaks down. It's testing the breaking point of the system. Scalability testing is testing the limit when you push plenty of data. And volume testing is the same thing basically. It's pushing more data, but volume testing is for a longer period of time, and scalability testing is for 1 hour. Endurance testing is when you subject the system to the to load for a longer period of time. There are certain terms that we need to know. Uh, so let me open my notepad and I will show you. So this is our agenda for today. Introduction to Apache JMeter, JMeter installation guide, elements of JMeter, hands-on with JMeter GUI, how to do performance testing using JMeter, timers in JMeter, assertions in JMeter, controllers in JMeter, REST API performance testing, SOAP API performance testing, using random data, function helper, debugging JMeter test, run JMeter in non-GUI mode, and aggregate report, summary report, simple data. Next comes the correlation part, JMeter functions, sample web services test plan, sample database test plan, sample FTP test plan, JMeter properties file. I will try to cover most of these things. If we run out of time, then I will just post it to my videos. So let's start with a few of the terms used in performance testing. What is a median? Median is when half of the request, median is just the count of how much time half of the request took. 90% of the request took this much time is nothing but the 90 percentile, and average time is nothing but the average time that all the requests took. So let's see how we use JMeter. First, I will show you where I download JMeter. So we go to Apache. Go to Google. This is the best place to start. And go to download JMeter. And we are going to use JMeter 3 because JMeter 3 has many advanced features. So this is the site where you download JMeter. And depending on your configuration, you just choose the correct zip file to download. This is JMeter 3. It requires Java 7 or later. I have already installed JMeter. So let's see how JMeter 3 looks like. This is the look and feel of JMeter. When JMeter gets installed, it gets installed in wherever you give the path, and I have put the JMeter in this directory, Apache JMeter 3, and it has a bin directory. Bin directory is where you will find your JMeter executable. There are two executables. First is the Apache JMeter, and second one, you can start JMeter by double clicking Apache JMeter, or you can start JMeter by double clicking jmeter.batch file. Okay, so moving ahead, so I have already opened JMeter. let's look what we have. We covered introduction to JMeter, JMeter installation we have covered. It's when you download that zip file, it's just a matter of extracting that zip file. Okay, so now if you open JMeter, if you open JMeter, you see it has a very simple console. It's just a matter of two things. When you do here, it's just a test plan and workbench. Workbench is nothing but your temporary workspace where you do certain things and then you transfer the completed product to test plan. Test plan is where your whole test resides. Now to start with, we can do, I will show you one sample test how we run in JMeter. It's very, very simple and any newcomer can do that test. So everything in JMeter is done by right clicks. So you right click on the test plan, add, and you add first a test group, thread group, sorry, thread group, threads, and go to thread group. You add a thread group. Thread group is nothing but number of users. So currently we have one user, one is the ramp up period. Ramp up period is the time taken by each user to come into the system. The loop count is the number of times this execution would be done. So if there are 3 users and the loop count is 3, then the execution will take 3 into 3, 9. So it will take 9 iterations to complete. Moving ahead, so we have added a thread group. Now we add a test plan. Sorry, we add a sampler. A sampler is our main HTTP request. So here we are exploring HTTP requests, and then we add the, here we don't need to add the HTTP colon colon and slash slash. We just give www dot. Maybe we will not take any commercial site. We will take the demo site, new tours dot demo dot com, and this is our site. So we have put this site, and in the thread group we put one thread to test initially. Remember, whenever you are testing the system for the first time, just put everything as one so that you come to know whether the system is working, whether your test is working fine or not. So we have added a HTTP request. There are many kinds of requests. You can go through the list of requests. When you add request sampler, then you will find so many requests are there. So you can just do trial and errors with each and every request. For the time being, I have taken HTTP request. Once you put an HTTP request, our test will run based on the HTTP request and the number of users in the thread group. So now our test is going to run, no problem. But we need one more thing. How are we going to know whether the test has run fine or not? How will we come to know the test results? So that's the reason listeners are there. We put listeners by right clicking and add listener. So the common listeners are view results in table and view results in tree. Okay. So now we are going to execute our very first JMeter test, and we are all set. We have adjusted our test plan, our thread group, HTTP request, and we have put 2 listeners. So this is all we need for running the test. Now once you run the test for one iteration and we find everything is working fine, you can run the test, you can increase the number of users, you can increase the number of loop counts so that iterations can take place. So let's run it. Okay, it's asking me to save my test plan. So first test, and you can save it in the bin directory. So if you notice here, it is running, and once it finishes, it will show a green mark if it has passed, and it will show a red mark if it has failed. Then you can go to the HTTP, the view results tree. The advantage of using view results tree is you get three tabs: the sample result, the request, and the response data. Request is what you send to the system. So here we are targeting our host as newtools.demo.com, and we are getting response in JSON format. If you don't know JSON format, no problem. You can just look it up on the net. And if you go to sampler result, it will say response code 200 and response message okay. If you are aware of internet programming or have a slight idea of response codes and response messages, then you will know that response code 200 is always a success message. So we sent something, we sent one request to the server to newtools.demo.com, and it sent us back a 200 response code. That is a okay message. So I hope everything is clear till this point. Okay. Okay, so we finished our basic test, and moving ahead, hands-on we have done how to do performance testing. We ran a simple test, a sample test. Okay, we will see another element of JMeter. We added two things. Remember, we added a view results in table, and we added a view results in tree. So view results in table will give additional details like number of bytes, the latency period. Latency period is nothing but the time required for the system to get back the first byte in the response. So once it gets back the first byte, that's your latency time, and the bytes received are this much, and the connect time to the server is this. If you look into the bottom part, it will give you the average response time. And if you look over here, thread group 1 indicates that there is only one user and one iteration. So let's increase the number of users and the number of iterations. First, we will increase the number of users. So let's put the number of users as 5 and the loop count as 2. So this will make the system run for 10 iterations. Now we go to our listeners, and this is the this one that I'm pointing with the mouse. It is the button for clear all. So you clear all the results, go to view results in table, clear all the results, and you're all set. So now you can run it for 5 concurrent users with loop count as 2. So let's see what we get. So once you have verified that our test is running fine, all the debugging is done, then we can just we can just trigger our load testing with more users. Okay. So how much should this number of requests be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10. So 5 into 2 is 10. So it's correct. And if you look into that, all the requests will be having a 200 response code. So I believe everything is clear till this point. If you have any questions, don't worry. I will be posting this webinar to the channel, and you will have access to it, and you can post your questions in the webinar. You can post your questions to the video. Okay, so going ahead, we are now going to do some timers in JMeter. Okay, timer is nothing but whenever users log into the system, okay, they don't do everything at a single moment. They will first open the home page, they will spend some time on the home page, then they will click some link, then it takes some time to go on the second page, they will spend some time on the second page. So it takes time between triggers. So to in order to simulate that, we are going to use timers. So we are going to give some gaps between our requests. Okay, so for that reason we need more than one HTTP request. Otherwise we can do it with just one request. Let me put a timer over here, and we are going to go with a constant timer. So this constant timer will apply to all the thread groups under this test plan. It's a global constant timer. Currently the timer is set at 300, so you can just put it at the default value, and now we will see what happens. See, it is taking some time. So timer is there for putting some time between your requests. If you increase your time to 2000, see, it takes time now. It's taking time between the requests. See, so that's the use of timers. So you have to practice this. Unless and until you put it into actual practice, you won't know its actual use. So next is assertions. Assertions are, you can say, they are the checks like you do in QTP. You put some verification point, checkpoints. It's the same thing that is used in JMeter. Assertions are the checkpoints in JMeter. So let's put an assertion over here. Okay, so you can put the assertion under a HTTP request, or you can put it at a test plan level or a thread group level. Anything, it's up to you. Assertions. So let's start with a simple assertion, that is a response assertion. A response assertion will check whether your response code that you get in the response is 200 or whether it is something else. Okay, so let's start with the text response, or you can select this response code, and it contains, and you just go over here, add it, and you put 200 over here. Okay, so this will pass. Let's change the thread groups back to 1 1, so that we don't have to, it will not create a clutter. So we have put the threads as 1 1, and now we have also put a response assertion against that request. So we will just run our test and see whether it works fine. Then I will show you how to fail an assertion. Okay, let's first see whether our assertion works. Let's clear the results and run it. Okay, so everything worked fine. 200 is the response code and the response message is okay. What happens if you change the response code to 01, for example? Now it should fail and it should show some error message in the window. Go back here. It's basically the same thing. Once you get accustomed to using this tool, it's a piece of cake, to speak simply. So just run it and it should fail. Okay, red means it's a failure and it gives you the response assertion failure over here. Test failed, code expected to contain 201. So whatever we give in the response assertion, it will check for that code on the page, on in the response I mean. And here we have got a successful response, but we are checking a false response code, that is a 201. So 200 compared with 201 is false, and that's the reason this has failed. Pretty simple, right? Now let's do a duration assertion in this. We can put a duration assertion over here. Okay. So add, it's basically same thing. Once you get accustomed, it's nothing. Size assertion and duration assertion. I will show you how to fill the details. Okay. Now coming to size assertion, this is checking for the size of the full response that we get back. So let's put the size as 100. It's a very small size, I know, but the size should be equal to 100. This is a comparison operator here, and I have put the size as 100. So definitely this is going to fail, since the size of the bytes received will be more than 100. Okay, so let's go back to the response assertion, and we will at least correct this one. So this is going to pass, this will fail, and duration we are just going to put in milliseconds. So let's put 100 milliseconds. So probably both the size assertion and the duration assertions will fail. Let's see. So assertions are checkpoints. We are checking whether our system is working fine. It's nothing but it is used for reporting purpose. See, it has failed. Let's see why it has failed. Size assertion, and it has failed for duration assertion. Why it has failed for size assertion? It says assertion failure message, the result was the wrong size. It was 15,863 bytes, but should have been equal to 100 bytes. So look at the size of the response. It is 15,863 bytes, and we put a very small amount, 100 bytes. So that's the reason it failed. Let's look at the duration assertion. The operation lasted too long. It took 1264 milliseconds, but should not have lasted longer than 100 milliseconds. So we should correct our data in the assertions. So now let's put approximate data in the assertions. So for size assertion, we will put as something around greater than 15,000 bytes. Greater than or equal to 15,000 bytes. And duration, what was our result in the duration? It was 1264. So greater than or equal to 1200 milliseconds. And let's put as 2000 milliseconds to be on the safer side. I believe this will fail again for the duration. Let's see. Yeah, it has failed. Don't get worried when anything fails. It is just a matter of learning for you. The operation lasted too long. It took 2, 3, 5, 4 milliseconds, but should not have lasted longer than 2000 milliseconds. So you need to be little careful with the duration assertion, because there is no, if you look into the duration assertion, there is no greater than, less than criteria in duration assertion like we had in size assertion. So you have to be comparatively accurate in giving the duration assertion. Most will give the response assertion. but sometimes we will have to use duration assertion, size assertion. So that's about it for assertions. Now we covered timers, we covered assertions. Let's come to controllers in JMeter. What are controllers? So I will open a test that I have already created. Let's start with the loop controller. Okay, I put that test in the bin folder. That's the reason it failed. Let's look into loop controller. Where do we have the loop controller? Check. Okay. Oh, I put it in the wrong folder. Okay. So this is the one we are going to use. Okay. So this is our loop controller. What loop controller does? Okay. We have two pages here: register and sign on. These are under thread group, and I have put a loop controller over here. Loop controller is used when you have to iterate just one page for a number of times, and the other pages will be run just once. So based on the conditional looping, you use a loop controller. So here we are using the home page. We are going to iterate for a couple of times, for a 5 times. That is the loop count over here. This is the home page, and the register page and the sign on page will be iterated just once. We have put a constant timer over here, 2000. So this is applicable to register, sign on, and home page. So home page will have a delay of 2000 milliseconds before each request. Okay, now we will go ahead and run this part. I believe you are understanding. If you don't understand, it's not a problem. I will post everything and you can just send me your comments and feedback. Okay. So let's run. Okay. The first test has passed. Register has passed. Sign on has passed. And homepage has also passed. Homepage will continue. Did you notice homepage 1, 2, and 3? It's still continuing. 4. Since it is 5, it will continue for 5 times. 5. That's it. It has finished. So once this red button goes green, you are done. That's the use of loop controller. I believe this is clear to all of you. No problem. You have to practice. Once you keep on practicing, it will be clearer and clearer as you do several things in your project. You will have to use, this is just the basics. You will have to use coding. You will have to create jar files and all. And that comes in the advanced part of JMeter. So moving ahead, we will look at the transaction controller next. I hope I have said the transaction controller. Oh, let me copy that again. File, open. Okay, so this is our transaction controller.jmx. Here there is a test plan. Under that test plan there is a thread group, and as usual I have these two. These are our common friends, so you can use them anytime. But just remember that you don't use view results tree when your test is too big, because memory consumption or resources consumption for view results tree is more. Use it less frequently. Here I have put a constant timer of 2000 milliseconds and a transaction controller. Transaction controller, I have put the home page, and I have put a response assertion in the transaction controller in the home page. So response assertion, we will make it as 200, and transaction controller is nothing but it will run it in a group, and this constant timer will apply to all the requests under this transaction controller. So it is basically to group your request, and it will show you. Let's go into the details. So generate parent sample is, if you select generate parent sample, it will just list the transaction controller and the time required for the transaction controller. So it will not list the individual time required for home page, register page, and sign on page. If you use include duration of timer and preprocessor in generated sample, then it will include the uh, timer time also in the total duration. So let's check this one first. Let's check without applying anything first. So we will check here runs. We try and find home page, register page, and sign on page, and we also get a request for transaction controller. Since we have it comes by default. So number of samples in transaction is 3, number of failing samples is 0. Now we will come to the next part. In first we will clear these results, and we will now see the next part in the transaction controller. If we select this part, let's see what happens. You will see yourself the difference. So first we had 4 requests. One was for the transaction controller, one for the home page, one for the register page, and one for the sign on page. Now let's see what happens when you select that option. Okay, so if you notice, you just have one entry transaction controller and not 4 entries as earlier, and everything is grouped under this. So you will find the home page, register, and sign on as a child request of transaction controller. So that's the difference between selecting nothing and selecting generate parent sample. So it generated only our parent sample, and all the other requests were made as child request of the parent sample. Next we select this one, and we have put 2000 as the thread delay. So let's see what happens. It basically will increase the execution time, nothing else. Okay, so I will keep this as it is, and let's see the execution results. Home page executed, register page executed, sign on, and transaction control. So if you go to this one, and let's go to view results in table, it will be clearer that way. So you find the time has increased when you look into the transaction controller. That is because the number of milliseconds in the constant timer have been added to transaction controller. That's the basic difference between the two options that are there in transaction controller. So that's all about transaction controller, and we will move ahead now. Okay, so coming to the next point, we completed controllers in JMeter. We REST API performance testing, SOAP API performance testing will be slightly difficult for you right now to understand. So I will keep it for a later session. And using random data also, let's see, using random data. I will mark these two as next session. Okay. Okay. I will show you what using random data is. Go here and let's open the using random data test. Okay. So here we are going to use a open weather site called api.openweathermap.org, and we are going to see, let me show you what this site is. I believe this is also a little bit you will find it difficult to understand first, but I will try to explain you as much as I can. api.openweather map. So here you will find API which you can use, and which is freely available to anybody who wants to test. So the prerequisites for open weather map is you need to have a API ID. So if you click on this one, you will get the instructions of getting your API ID. Now I already have an API key with me. I registered, and this is my API key, this one over here. And I have used a random function over here. Functions and variables we will be covering later, but this is how you use a random function. The syntax for using a random function is dollar, curly brace, underscore underscore, random word, bracket 3576016, 3576024. It will take random values between this range. This range I have extracted from the citylist.json file. I will explain later what that is in the later session, I mean. But that is a JSON file for weather information, and it contains all the city IDs by which you can get the weather information for a particular city. If you send the data for in the request, you get a response back with the weather information. And these two, ID and app ID, are nothing but parameters that you will send across with the request. So these are user defined parameters. Keep in mind, user defined parameters. api.openweathermap.org is our site, and put the path after the after api.openweathermap.org in the path section. So this is how you create a HTTP request for random values. And moreover, the most important thing is this one. You need to keep in mind that you need to put a config element, because this config element is used for generating city IDs, and it will this city ID variable will be used, and it will use the city IDs from random set of city IDs between this. So the way you add a config element is right click, add config element, and you go to here not CSV, it's a random variable. So random variable here. So that is how I have added this random city ID, and then I added this HTTP request. I added this random function and the ID over here. So that is how you use random variables. instead of putting, I have put the entire function over here. Instead of putting the entire function, I will show you later how you can make use of this, because you must be wondering why unnecessarily I have created this random variable when I'm not using it anywhere. Its use I will explain you later. So response assertion 200, and I have put view results tree. The thread group I have put as 1 1 and 10. Let's see, view results tree. There. Oh, you have a failed request. The reason the requests are failing is it's taking a random value which might not exist in the city list IDs. So see this one. Let's see this one. Text expected to contain 200. So it did not contain 200 because that city was not found. Here you again get a response assertion, but here you got a successful response back. Let's see what response we have received. See, this is a JSON file which contains the weather information for that particular city code. The city is St. John's, and you get all the information like broken clouds, humidity, temperature min max, so on and so forth. I will show you where you can get a list of city IDs. So if you go here, and if you let me give you the data, maybe I will post it on my video. So that's how you do a random variable test. So we covered random data. If you find any problems understanding this, then you can watch the webinar which will be posted after this session. If even then you find an issue, then you can post a comment on the webinar. Next thing we will be seeing is function helper. Okay, before that, I promised you that I will be showing you how to use the CSV Data Set config. CSV Data Set config is nothing but you are using a CSV file here. Sorry, not CSV Data Set config, my bad, a random variable name. So this is our random variable name. We control C, and instead of this one, the way you put a variable is the same dollar curly brace, and then put the variable name over here, curly brace complete. So it will take random variable random values from city ID variable which is linked to this config element. Now let's run it once again and see whether we get the same results or not. Okay, see, it took random values, so one of that values is passing. That's the reason we got HTTP request. Let me run it once again after clearing the results. Okay, fail. Pass. Oh, this time two passed. Okay, we are on. It's our lucky day today. Looks like. So that's about random variable, random data. Next, I will show what function helper is. Now, in case you must have seen the complex function that I had written, random and then bracket. So if you find difficulty in using random functions, you can just come back here in the same request, clear this thing. Okay, go to options, and here you will find something called function helper dialog. This will generate the function for you. Here you can choose a function, and our function is random. Okay, this is our function. So here you provide the minimum value, the maximum value, and the variable. So let's look into what the minimum values, maximum values were. Let me take a different set of minimum and maximum values this time, so you can just give me some time. I'm just searching for values. Okay, 357 6016 357 6024. And then you click on this generate button. So there you go. It creates a random function for you. So if you don't know the syntax, not a problem. You can use the function helper dialog. After that, you just copy paste it from here and stick it in your user defined variable here. And that's about the function helper. Then I will show you how to debug a JMeter test. Debugging we will also take in the next session. Okay, I will show you one important concept in JMeter, that is correlation. Okay, so this is our script. Here I have requests that I have recorded using bad boy. Bad boy recording I will cover later, and not in this session. I mean, this through bad boy you can generate steps. Just like you have QTP record and playback, bad boy is used for JMeter record and playback. So here we get the here we get the steps, and you notice that things are pretty hard coded over here, like cats. Just to show you how this site looks like, it's a JPEG store online. This is our JPEG store. Most of the times for explaining things, people use the JPEG store which they have installed, but this is an online available information. And here you can go to any of the, here if you click on dogs, then you can select bulldog, and then you can add to cart. This is the adoption center. It's a pet store or adoption center, whatever you name it. So this is a site which we will be working on. The thing that I would like to explain you is, initially we had a look at parameters, right? That was static parameterization. Now here in this case, what happens if I put dogs here in this request, instead of putting cats in the category ID, I put, let's see with cats first whether it is passing or not, then I will move ahead to dogs. Okay, so view results tree, and I run it. Oh, it failed for all the requests. Why? Okay, let me check whether. Okay, some host exception is coming. Let me check. Okay, process. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Okay, so let's run it again. Let's see whether it works out this time. Okay, it works. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. So now what happens when you see, if you go and check the data, you will find that, let's check page 3. Where did we have that? Yeah, we had it in page 2, right? So page 2, we'll see what response data we are getting back. This is our response data, and we are getting back, since we put cats over here, we are getting back data as cats. See, feline, FL. If you go to the site, you will find that, if you go here, see, FLDLH02. We must have got either of the two. Let's FLDLH02. This is what we are getting in the response. So it is working fine, since we are passing cats in the request, and we are getting back a cat, a particular product code in the response. The same response code is passed here and further down. So when one when one some data is passed from one response to another request, this is when problems might occur. If it is hard coded and if data changes in one place, then it will fail for sure, and that's where you need one more concept called as correlation. Correlation is done for dynamic parameterization. Dynamic parameterization. The first one, earlier we saw what static parameterization is. Now this is called dynamic parameterization. So let's see whether when we change here to dogs, what happens. Okay, let's clear it and let's run it. Oh, the reason is I have already put this regular expression. Let me disable it. Okay, disable, save response. That's okay. So now I will come to what regular expression extractor is. Now I clear the results and run it again. Oh, okay. Earlier it was feline, right? Feline. So I will put some hard coded thing. FL-DLH-02. So this should now surely fail since we have dogs over here and we are checking for response as feline product code. So it should surely fail. Now let's see whether it fails this time. Oh, classes. Somewhere we are missing something. Okay, what we can do is let me record this one and show it to you. Then things will be pretty clear. Okay, so let's close this script. Okay, so I will record it. So we will cover recording also here. So it makes it easy for you. I start with a fresh new script. Okay, so this is how you record. You just put it over here and run it. Bad boy works as a browser in itself. But why isn't it recording? Okay, now it has started recording. See, you put it in and then it records each of those in step by step. So we select dogs. Now we select a bulldog and that's it. Okay. So those are the 4 actions we are doing. To the home page, we select our product and add it to the cart, and that's about it. So now our steps are done. We have added 4 steps over here. Now what we need to do is simply we need to export to JMeter. Just select the directory C colon Apache JMeter 3 bin, and I will name it as JPET soap. Okay. Now we go to JMeter and we open that test. Okay. Once you open this test, you will see that there are certain things that get added: HTTP cookie manager, user defined variables, HTTP header manager, and there is a step 1 added. If you notice, there are 4 steps over here. So it will take you to the home page. The method is used is get. Then you go to the next page where you are passing a hard coded category ID, that is dogs. Then you see K9BD01, that is a K9 ID, and then you go to the next, that is the last page where you have got a working item ID. So now let's go ahead and add a listener to this. Okay, and let's run it. Okay, it passes. So all the steps are passing. Now the thing that I mentioned, let's change it to cats. Cats. Okay, the reason is we have not included any assertion in our test. So just give me a few minutes. I will tell you which assertion we need to include. Guys, we will probably cover this in the next session, since we are out of time already. And I will post this video to a YouTube channel, so you can view that. You can post your comments. And looks like there is an issue with my file, so I need to look into that. It was working fine till the time of the demo. So I will get back to you on this one, and hope you have understood the things explained by me so far. If there are any questions, as you all know, I'll be it's open to questions. You can post your comments, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you.